Welcome to April 18th, 2022 Fisher City Council meeting. Thank you for all for being here. We do not have any announcements or proclamations. I'd like to ask Chief Gebhardt to come up and present a service award.
Thank you, Council. Thank you for allowing us the time to recognize one of our 20-year employees, one of our civilian professionals. Will Tammy King please come forward? Tammy, you ready for your 2 minutes?
In a minute.
She's been nervous that we were going to make her speak, so.
It's just 20 minutes. It's
It's just 20. So Tammy came to us in April of 2002. It's the mayor over there. She came to us in 2002, where she currently and always has served as the administrative assistant to the patrol commander. Outside, we are talking about it, and she has trained 8 commanders, 1 current sitting chief, 1 assistant chief, and a lot of them are here to support her tonight. Our civilian professional staff is normally our unsung heroes of the department. They don't get a lot of recognition, but without them, we couldn't provide the level of protection and service that the community has come to expect of us, so we appreciate them, and that's why nights like this are very important. Tammy takes good care of our officers. She works to equip them to make sure they come home safely, and not just her division, but she takes care of everyone, and with a great attitude and with great poise. So Tammy, thank you for your 20 years to the city. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tammy, for all your service. Moving on, we've got the Mayor's Youth Academy. Mayor Fadness?
Thank you, Council President Zimmerman. I actually would like, Mackenzie, could you step up? Mackenzie Poole actually led our Mayor's Youth Academy this year, and every year it's one of my favorite programs that we do. We really get to see the best and brightest of Fisher's residents, our young people, step forward, and they get to really learn about public service. And maybe, Mackenzie, if you could start by just sharing a little bit about what they experienced. And then tonight, I think you have a real treat. This team, absent one, she wasn't able to make it tonight. The 3 of the 4 are here tonight. These folks, every month, they are provided an opportunity in short notice to basically pitch a public policy position, and then Mackenzie and I and department heads get to rate them in these different teams. And this team scored the most points out of the entire year. And so tonight, they've been tasked with yet another policy question to share with all of you. But before they do that, Mackenzie, just give them a quick summary of what this year-long process looks like.
So it starts in the summer when we put out the application to the high schools, and so this is open to any Fishers resident. And so it is, majority of the students come from Fishers High School, Hamilton Southeastern High School, and then the Amman schools. This year we had around 60 applicants, and then we go through a scoring rubric. We try and really, these students have 4.0s and above GPAs who are applying, but really try and get a wide range of students with different strengths. They're then selected, invited to attend the Mayor's Youth Academy. It is about half a day long sessions that begin in August, and then they conclude in March. They go and see the city department. So we task the department directors with doing the beginning half of kind of an overview of their department. They are allowed to do kind of whatever they would like. City attorney took them on a bus tour actually this year and let them know the different legal aspects.
I think he had to do that because legal is usually pretty boring. So the bus trip
Was he
an opportunity
driving too? Was he? No, okay.
So they got to go and kind of see like a back, like behind the scenes look at Geist Waterfront Park, the Nickel Plate Trail and the vaccine clinic, but then also what are the, how does city legal interact with those different type of assets that the city has. And then they get 45 minutes to answer this policy question. If you ever need a presentation done in 10 minutes, I would ask these high school students to do it because they look better than something I spend 2 weeks on. They then present it to the mayor and that department head director, and then they ask pretty tough questions. They're scored, and then at the end of the session, we have who has won. This year, their last session was in March. This group will present today, and then the final kind of kickoff is they are doing a fence building activity as a volunteer activity out at the Agri Park on April 29th. So really proud of these students this year.
Well, thank you, Mackenzie, and we'll turn it over to the team. Their question posed to them to provide to you is, what are the top 3 global trends that we as a community and you as city council members should be concerned about for the long-term welfare of our city? With that, go for it.
Okay. So first, we'd like to start by introducing ourselves. My name is Selsa Murtami. I go to Fishers High School, and I'm a junior.
Hi, I'm Mohammed Zilani. I'm a senior at HAT.
And my name is Audrey Blanner, and I'm a senior at Fishers High School.
So yeah, like Mir Fadna said, we were asked to come up with the 3 top trends that we thought were incoming to Fishers and why we thought they were important. So we have eco-awareness.
So, eco-awareness, as you might hear on the news, is a very important topic. And we want to talk about this because, first of all, it's a very important thing that we need to consider. It promotes green life for all the residents in Fishers. It will also help future business operations by making their businesses more efficient in long term with more efficient energy systems. It's also a very important topic to the young generation as us, and I'm sure you guys know more about that. So our status quo right now is we have local recycling days. I know that we had one recently about recycling electronics and paint and things like that. We also have volunteer park cleanups, and we also increased awareness on solar panels. And I think we could step it up a notch as a city, and we could talk about more recycling facilities as the ones that we have right now. They're not as frequent as they should be, and we would like that if there were more recycling facilities, it would make it easier for our residents to partake in that. Also, an idea would be a bike-friendly Fishers, as if you I've seen many cities around the world are opting for a bike-friendly neighborhood because it's better for the community members as it promotes a healthier lifestyle and also reduces the carbon emissions. And there's also public transportation. I know Fishers is relatively small for a public transportation, but if we could have small things for people to go from one area to another that would reduce the usage of private vehicles and would lead to a more eco-friendly society. And finally, electric charging stations for cars, because I know personally from experience that many people, why they don't buy electric cars is because it's not just practical in this modern day society, because there's not enough charging stations. And so if we have more charging stations, people will be more likely to buy them. And in the future, when we switch to a more of an sustainable energy resources, then we would be a step ahead. And I think the benefits of that are obviously that if we become a very sustainable society, then we would attract a lot of people, especially from outside, who'd want to live here and work here and, educate their children over here. And it also boosts, health of the community members, as well as, efficiency of the businesses, and just helps the city overall.
So our next important trend we thought was coming was housing, and we thought that Fishers is already thriving and up and coming, and a lot of people are trying to move here, but there's not a lot of affordable housing, and we need a lot of affordable housing, and we thought we should work on repricing the existing homes we already have. And we understand that the property market doesn't fluctuates at no fault to the city, but we're thinking that there are some potential changes that we could take to help a lot of people that are trying to move to Fishers move to Fishers. So right now we have 939 homes sold to non-owner occupants, and 23% of them reside out of state. So what these homeowner occupants do, they take these houses and they buy them, and then they start renting them at a much higher price than a lot of people can afford, which limits the amount of people coming to live in Fishers. So we thought potential solutions to this could be providing housing to employees that staffs that work at HSC and Fishers, because a lot of our teachers don't live in Fishers and they aren't part of our community. They usually drive here from Lawrence or Indianapolis, and which limits them interacting with other people in our community. Another solution we thought was finding ways to counteract the nearly 15% house price boom from 2021. These benefits would include adding a more diverse housing profile, which would bring about more diverse community members and will allow us more communities to come here and build roots within the city of Fishers.
All right, and this last trend that we wanted to discuss with you is about civic education. I hate to break it to you, but the people of Fishers are getting smarter. This is a really important topic because voting is a civic duty, and the more people who do so, the better. An increased awareness about the decision that you're making can also improve your mindset regarding democracy. When you understand more about how things like the Electoral College work, you really understand that every vote matters, and you can encourage not only yourself but those around you to go out and vote. Additionally, civic education is always critical, and people wanting it only makes it easier to implement it into schools. So let's talk a little bit about the current status quo. Voter turnout rates in Hamilton County as a whole increased 7% from 2016 to 2020. This is only one presidential election, and the numbers only continue to grow. Facebook groups can work to keep parents informed, and Instagram accounts can promote awareness for teens. Some examples include @so.informed. They present information in a very accessible way, making it easy to read the information, retain the information, and repost to share the information with others. Some benefits from these include future voters are learning how to make an informed decision about what works best for them. It always has been true, and it always will be true, that the candidate that works for you may not always work the best for your neighbor, and it's important to learn how to differentiate that. Increased voter turnout also increases citizen involvement in Fishers. So, as we've mentioned, this is a trend that is currently growing, but here's just some suggestions that we have of how we can really get the ball rolling further. Encouraging public attendance at these city council meetings. I know that they are open to the public, but some people may decide that they don't want to spend their time off of work coming here to listen to everybody speak. But making it more broadly aware, the rough outline of an agenda of what's going to be discussed, can more easily allow people to pick and choose the meetings that are of most interest to them. Also, holding convocations in schools can teach people about the city government. All of us are required to take government classes in school, and we can walk you through some of the basics about government at a national level, But when we pinpoint a little bit more locally, it often can feel like things are hidden behind a curtain. So by educating and teaching students about this, we're not only educating future voters, but future candidates in that audience as well. And finally, by implementing more programs just like this Mayor's Youth Academy, you're allowing other people to have the experience to learn about the individual departments, which is a really great opportunity that we've had. We'd like to really thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to speak here, as well as thanking Mayor Fadness and Ms. Poole for giving us this chance. We really enjoyed the Mayor's Youth Academy, and we hope that things like this can continue in the future.
Thank you very much. That was great. Any questions for? They're right here. They're fired up and ready to go. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I could talk with you guys for hours. I love when I had a similar opportunity as a mayor. That was an exciting thing. I did the same thing as the mayor's done here. And in fact, one of the seniors in my group ran for city council that he was so excited getting involved in government. So it's fantastic. Just some quick questions. I don't want to take time. On the voter turnout, what other ideas do you have to get, because we only have about 10% people vote, except in Britton Falls, my precinct, 93% of us vote. But any ideas how to get?
And I think Brad, some of that, because I wrote that down too, and I think one of the things to point out too is you did a good job researching, especially what I hear is, and maybe I'm off, but what I hear is the presidential elections. So when those happen, there's a lot more turnout. When we're elected or not elected, okay, that's usually the lowest turnout. And actually, I believe we have more impact on the day-to-day residents than whoever the president is. So I think too that maybe is like, is there a differential in your stats between when there's a major election for president versus local municipal elections?
Yeah, there definitely is always a greater turnout at major elections like the presidential election than there are for more local ones. And to answer your question, first of all, congratulations on your 93%.
Thank you.
He got an award for it and everything.
My generation was taught you vote. It's simple.
I think that one of the best ways to increase a more local voter turnout rate is to start young. Focus on the people who are going to be turning 18 soon or may already be 18. Go to schools, visit with them, talk to them about why they should be voting, how they should be voting, and give them more education about how their votes really do matter.
And another reason why we don't think like a lot of people churn up for the local elections like they do for like major ones is because they don't really know what the city council does and what they actually do in the city of Fishers. So I feel like if we were to educate people about that and see that they actually have a more important role in the city than like the president do, whatever, they'd be like more inclined to come and vote.
Yeah, I think you were kind of summed it up perfectly, because when I was in my government class, my teacher was like, everyone talks about the presidential election, but no one, goes to like city elections. And even though the city elections are probably what's going to affect you the most. And I didn't know about that at all. And after I heard him say that, and from the Mayor's Youth Academy, I kind of realized the importance of that. And I think many people, just even in my own, my own peers, they don't know much about the city government. And they're not, if they don't know that, they have this so much potential to, change their community, they're not going to do anything about it. So I think hitting the youth and maybe even adults, I think just educating them more about, what the city does and, in more fun and friendly ways. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate, I know in respect to time, we have to keep moving, but these folks are, they give me hope for the future. They're bright. I never saw a GPA above 4.0. I don't think I saw a GPA of 4.0 when I was going to school, but these kids are extraordinary, and I appreciate and I'm humbled by the fact they're willing to take time out of their, frankly, very busy schedules to learn more about local government. So with that, we have a few certificates for you folks. Council President Zimmerman, if you could come down and we'll get a picture, and we'll wish you guys all the best.
Are any of you guys going to run for city council next year?
Why don't you guys come up here and
All right, moving on. We've got Troop 150 here. So Brian, if you'd come up and introduce the troop to us.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. Good evening. My name is Brian Bale, Assistant Scoutmaster in Troop 109. It's my pleasure to introduce the newest Boy Scout troop, Troop 150 in Fishers. Troop 150 is chartered out of the Cynthian Christian Church right across the street from Britton Falls. And I'd like to introduce Tim Triplett. He is the Scoutmaster of Troop 150, and he'll introduce the Scouts.
Hello, thank you for having us. Like you said, my name's Tim Triplett. I've been the Scoutmaster for Troop 150 for 7 years now. We're in the far northeast corner of the county, so we're a smaller troop. We don't get as much. With everything going on in the world, we had to find a new charter, and we decided to move a little bit closer, Fishers and some of the housing and that, hopefully to get more Scouts and more youth involved. So we appreciate this. We appreciate Brian. He's helping us out doing citizenship in the community merit badge for us. We're also in transition. Older boys gone, parents go with them, and we got newer ones in, and we don't have merit badge counselors for all the merit badges. So we'll have my Scouts come up, and they'll give their name and their rank.
My name is Ethan Kilmer. I am a first-class scout, and I've been scouting for about 2 years. I really enjoy it, and yeah.
Thank you, Ethan.
My name is Nick Dodd, and I am a star rank.
Thank you, Nick.
Hi, I'm Gavin Murray. I am a star rank, and I'm enjoying. I'm doing the citizenship in the community. So yeah.
Thank you, Gavin.
My name is Ryan Dodd, and I am second class, and I am working on the citizenship in the community.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you all for being here.
Thank
Appreciate
you so
it.
much.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Cecilia, give the Finance Committee report, please.
Yes, Chairman John Weingart wasn't here this evening, so I am going to read the report. The Finance Committee met on April 13th, and they gave a recommendation of passing Resolution R041322. It's a resolution authorizing the City Controller to transfer certain funds, and also to recommend passage of Resolution R041322A, which is the reestablishing of a cumulative capital development fund pursuant to Indiana Code Section 36-9-15.5, and there'll be a public hearing on that today.
Thank you very much. On to the Health Department report. You can find that on our website. It's updated information regarding the health of our community and the services that our Health Department provides to our residents. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Pete, second by Selena. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to item 8, R041822, a resolution reestablishing the Cumulative Capital Development Fund. Very noisy.
I know. The mic's still on. For the record, Lisa Bradford, City Controller. The item before you is related to an item in the 2023 budget. It's the reestablishment of the Cumulative Capital Development Fund. So for some background, this is not a new fund. This fund was established in 1984 and became effective in 1985. Per the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance, you're required to establish this fund annually, and it is included as part of the overall tax rate. So just again, it is related to the 2023 budget. It does not change anything related to the 2022 tax rate. and it is set at 0.05 per $100 is the max levy that can be set for this tax. And as we've discussed in the past, the Cumulative Capital Development Fund is predominantly used to pay for our fleet loan, which is how we recapitalize a lot of predominantly our police vehicles, our fire trucks, a lot of our public works vehicles, and other types of our fleet. We also use the CCD for various capital improvement projects around the city, particularly related to some of the less extensive capital needs, such as windows, replacement, roofs, things like that for various government buildings. If there are no questions, I'll step aside for the public hearing.
Any questions, or want to wait till public hearing? All right, I'll open it up for public hearing. Any of those wishing to speak on this subject alone, step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have any comments or questions from council?
I would make a motion to approve. There's no questions.
Motion by Pete.
Second.
Second by Selena. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. Moving on to item 9, 041822, an ordinance authorizing the city officials to become a member of the Central Indiana Regional Development Authority. Mayor Fatness.
Thank you, Council President Zimmerman. This is an item I've actually been working on for a number of years. The opportunity for Central Indiana to work together collectively towards a common vision or a common goal is critical, I think, for the long-term viability of Central Indiana. 3 years ago, we adopted at the state legislature a framework for this to occur that would allow us to organize as an entity to go pursue different opportunities. The first and probably most prominent opportunity that kind of befell us was the opportunity to apply for a READY grant. So if those of you that aren't familiar with the READY program, it's a state program where they allow regions to come together collectively, put together a vision, and apply for funds. One of the requirements of those READY grants is that you have an entity for that money if you are lucky enough to be awarded, fortunate enough to be awarded, to manage or administer those funds. So what we're doing now is formally establishing this Central Indiana Regional Development Authority to allow for us to receive the $20 million of grant funding that we received in this recent round, of which I believe, Megan, 5.4 million as of right now, Fishers would receive. So it's going to come to the Central Indiana Regional Development Authority as an entity, and then that money will be distributed out to the grant awardees. Now, what I would tell you is our goal is not just for this round, but we anticipate that there'll be another round of READY grants, and we want to be prepared and ready to go apply for those and be aggressive as a region. And then also, the federal government right now has a tremendous number of opportunities for us to go pursue federal grants that look for regions applying for a common vision to try to accomplish something either from an economic development perspective or any variety of other avenues. The framework that you have before you is both in an ordinance and a resolution. Under Indiana law, under the state statute that we passed a few years ago, not only do we have to set up the entity, but the entity has to have a plan. And so the resolution, that's the second item below item 9, is actually you adopting the strategic economic development plan for Central Indiana. It's a very high-level document that talks about generally what are the things that we would be focused on as an entity. Some of the logistical questions or practical matters that some of you might be concerned about are, can this entity go tax people? Is it a separate authority that gives people the ability to, at arm's length, go start taxing residents? No, it does not. It has no taxing authority under Indiana law. So if you were concerned about, let's say, us joining this, and then all of a sudden there's a tax administered on a resident, that is not the case. Another question is, do we have representation on this new entity? Yes, we do, in fact, have representation. Each community is given a vote by the executive on this board. So typically, you're either going to have the executive of the municipality or their proxy would serve on the board. Noblesville passed this earlier this week, I believe it was, Chris, or last week. McCordsville is recently passed this. We anticipate Indianapolis to take this up in the next couple months. Greenwood will be evaluating this as well. And so likely anyone who is a recipient of funds under this recent Ready grant in our proposal will become a part of the Central Indiana Redevelopment Authority in order to receive those funds. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that any of you have on this item this evening.
Just quickly, Scott, and maybe some of you guys don't know, but talk about the differences between the MPO and this particular group.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, MPO is for Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Yeah.
I believe there's 6 of them in the state of Indiana, and they really take the federal funds and the NDOT funds, and you go to them to get projects and you put your project forward. So where's the differences lie there?
Yeah, so that is exactly correct. The MPO's primary goal is long-range planning, and then they dole out federal grants for transportation based on federal guidelines. This group is much more nimble. It allows us to go pursue any variety of grant opportunities, not only from the federal government, but even from the nonprofit sector. So this really is focused more on economic development, probably less on what you would call traditional MPO dollars that come out of congestion mitigation and different things like that.
And then from an administrator standpoint, do we have a
We're keeping this, we're going to keep this very limited. We're not trying to build a significant another layer of government. In fact, we anticipate that Fishers can handle the financial administration, so we will likely assign interlocals with the other communities and just have our controller's office and her team handle the grant administration component of this. And then there might be a part-time executive or an executive at some point. But again, our goal here is not to create lots of layers of government, but rather just create an opportunity so when, let's say, another Ready grant opportunity steps before us, or frankly, the federal government's Economic Development Administration, when they specifically ask for regional pitches for projects, we in Central Indiana today, we do not have an entity that can go do that. There's nothing that exists that says we as Indianapolis metropolitan area, we're going to go put our best foot forward to pitch for a $100 million economic development grant. That entity doesn't exist. This allows us to have that vessel, that entity that would qualify for the vast majority of those grants.
And again, speaking with one voice, obviously, is going to carry a much larger weight with the guys who dole out the money downtown, right? That's basically what we're trying to do, is we're trying to leverage our weight as a donor community in Indianapolis to say, hey, let's pay attention to us instead of all of us fighting for similar dollars.
Yeah,
That's
there's
basically
a
the concept.
variety of grants currently under the Economic Development Administration that will only entertain a regional proposal. They won't entertain 14 different communities from the same region. And so we have to come together collectively to go pursue some of these larger grant opportunities. Councilmember Dreamer?
Yeah, I dealt with this before, so I'm trying to understand what I dealt with as mayor and what this is and what the difference is. Another regional thing, is this going after economic development?
Going after in pursuing economic development leads and things of that nature, like the Indy Partnership? No, Indy Partnership does the actual direct marketing for economic development opportunities today, and that's through the Chamber of Commerce in Indianapolis. So the Indy Partnership is a subsidiary of the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce, and those folks are the ones that are tasked currently with marketing our region for economic development prospects.
And this new one would do what?
Well, for instance, we would go apply for grants. So we applied for the Ready grant recently. We received $20 million as a region for that. There's a federal grant out there right now that we would also be competitive for, that we could, as a region, all collectively submit on so that we could receive those funds. Even some things down the road, like Senator Young's Next Frontiers Act, if that were to go into place, there's a huge opportunity there for our region to step together collectively towards those grant applications.
Okay, so this money comes to the region.
Correct.
Then how and who decides gets what?
That would be based on your grant application. So for instance, with the Ready grant, we consolidated the application. We all worked together collectively to come to some decision on what are the projects that we would put forward. We submitted those to the state of Indiana. They decided what they were going to fund, and now they will give us the money, but with the money comes the instructions on how you can spend the money. We don't get to divvy it up based on our say. We have to follow whatever state or federal guidelines come with the grant.
So Fishers can't apply for that ready grant as Fishers, it's got to be applied for.
Correct,
by
as
the
a region.
So this is just another US government sitting in Washington jacking around with our tax money.
I think it's another hoop you have to jump through for the opportunity at federal and state grant dollars. And to be fair, we did receive $5 million in this recent go-round for the ready money. So my goal is to create this with the least amount of impact to anything we're doing, but still meet all the requirements that are necessary so that we do have the opportunity to go receive these funds. I mean, the $5.4 million will build the majority of not Geist Waterfront, but the White River Park. I mean, these are tremendous opportunities that we're being afforded in the state and federal level to get those dollars. If it means that we have to get organized as a region and apply for those things, I'm willing to do that. And I think it's just important to know that there are no additional strings or hooks attached to we as a municipality. You're not going to be pushed into a tax increase. You're not going to be dealing with any of those things. We're simply establishing this entity to go pursue things that we can't do on our own.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So just to be clear, when you're applying for these grants, these are things that you have decided are good for our community. It's not somebody else bringing money in to force us to develop something that we don't want to.
It's a voluntary act. These are voluntary pursuits of state and federal dollars that, like any state, for instance, I guess a good analogy would be if the federal government decided environment was an important priority, they may put parameters around a grant application that says it has to be focused on water quality or it has to be focused on air quality. Well, in that same light, there are federal dollars that say, hey, we're really focused on regional or metropolitan approaches to solving these problems. Well, when that occurs, they're going to put criteria in that says, show me that you're one region applying for one grant. It's a qualifying act, if you will, that opens up more doors for us regionally to go after these dollars.
Anybody else?
I just have a few questions. Sure. Certainly, I think we can all appreciate the value of a regional approach and the value that offers us. I don't think we've talked lately about the update about the Ready Grant, and my understanding is this is before us today, like it is the Ready Grant opportunity, which we've been awarded.
Right.
Partially.
Right.
That is requiring these actions in front of this body today. So first of all, can you just share a little bit about the update of the Ready Grant, like where that stands? And especially, like, I don't think we've discussed it as a body before, but although the municipality received $5 million, we were hoping for more. So something has to be adjusted from the original grant application, right?
Yeah. So the Ready Grant we originally applied was $50 million that we applied for as a region. We were awarded $20 million. And so with that, obviously we had to look at budget cuts associated with that. One of the directions of the IEDC was that you couldn't just cut across the board the equivalent amount. You didn't get to just say, well, we'll just fund all of these programs or all these projects at a 45 or 60% reduction. And so Megan Baumgartner really led the way with all of our partners in this region to say, okay, let's sit down at the table and figure out what we truly are going to fund and what is possible. Because also one of the things that occurred is they swapped out the funds for ARP funds. And so those have a lot more restrictions per the state. And so we had to identify which projects were actually qualifiable under ARP funds through this program. Fortunately for us, our park was one of those that really fit the qualifications or the requirements of the grant. So in reality, Fishers fared very well. To still receive $5.4 million for this park is significant, when there are a number of other folks that frankly, their projects were not able to move forward because they didn't qualify under the ARP program. So the only thing that we were really reduced was the roundabout at 96 in Allisonville. And we were able to accommodate that through our economic development agreement with Chris Reed and CRG Development. So we're still able to build the roundabout. We just won't be using any funds from the Ready Grant to be able to do that.
What is,
Yeah.
one more. What is the role of the city council in relation to this new
Yeah.
development authority?
So any funding, if you were to choose to either commit to a matching grant of any sort, if you were to decide to fund anything in this entity, the power of the purse, so to speak, your legislative purview of controlling funds, that's your control over this entity, is whether or not you're willing to commit any funds to it moving forward. Other questions?
Thank you.
David?
Typically, I think of when I hear central authority, open up your wallet. And,
Right.
I know this is new, but I looked at the Northwest region, and their administration today is around $7 million. So I think it's great, and I believe you could control those costs, but what about 10, 15 years from now?
Yeah, I would point to the state statute associated with the Northwest Redevelopment Authority versus the Central Indiana Regional Authority. They have limiting authorities. So I think Northwest has the ability to tax. It's an entirely different entity than what this is. There's very limited amounts of resources available for this entity. I mean, if we don't get any grants and you guys aren't willing to fund it, it exists on paper.
So we could appropriate money for administration.
You could appropriate or you could not. I mean, either one of those, that's your decision. It's not the decision of the entity. It's you as a body, and each municipality would have that authority to say, we're gonna give $50,000 to this, or we're gonna give no money to it. We're gonna decide to work on this local match, or we're not going to decide to do that. That's the purview of the city council and the power of the purse, so to speak, from a financial perspective.
Yeah, today's tax day, I believe, right?
That's correct.
I filed mine the other day.
Yes.
I would imagine that Fishers probably sends more federal dollars than we would ever dream to get back.
Well, I think there's, to that point, Councilmember Giffel, I think there is an interesting advantage to working regionally to go secure federal funds in an era where federal funds typically get earmarked for more disadvantaged areas. Demographically, Fishers has never scored well on that, fortunately, that we don't have a lot of those chronic issues. But when we look at a collective region, we may score better and have more access to that capital because of the fact we're working together with some of our other partners who, frankly, are having more challenges than what Fishers is having.
Yeah, I got one more question.
Yep.
I guess the Ready Grant, if we approve this or don't approve to be members, we still get the Ready Grant, right?
There has to be it has to go through a redevelopment authority.
So the White River, what is it, Opportunity Initiative, you guys all did that because I wasn't here.
We applied, but in order to receive the funds, you have to have a redevelopment authority.
Got it.
So when I was reading this, well, first and foremost, I'm really happy to hear that there's going to be representation from Fishers if this goes through. So my question is, so I think I read somewhere that we have like 5 years. So if around the 5-year mark, we realize this isn't really working out the way that we thought it would, how
then,
does...
Yeah, then you opt out.
Okay, it's as simple as that. Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor, I have a question. So with this agreement, then we're not working with Noblesville because it says Indianapolis, Carmel, Anderson. So
No,
is
Noblesville has already passed this, so I'm not sure.
But I know they did. But does that mean that we can't? They're not part of this region. They're not part of our
Noblesville
region because it's not listed here. So that's what I was trying to understand. Do they have their own?
No. Noblesville adopted this same ordinance.
Okay, so we still can work with Noblesville. We can work with Anderson, Carmel, Indianapolis.
Those would all be members of our Central Indiana Regional Development Authority. What I mentioned earlier is this conversation that we're having right now, each community has to decide to opt in, and Noblesville had this conversation and has already opted in. So we wouldn't be the first one opting in. Noblesville already has. McCordsville's had, I think they adopted it. So you'll start to see all of these communities adopt the same entity. moving forward.
If a community doesn't adopt it, then they just don't have a chance to get any of that.
They don't get any of the money.
Okay.
So our option, or did you have, were you making comments? Okay, so our options, from what I understand, is we either don't hold first reading, or we hold first reading, or we suspend the rules to pass on the first reading. Is that correct?
Yep, always your three options, yep.
Right, and how does that impact item 10 if we just do a first reading today?
We would just hold, hold that.
Okay, so.
I'm gonna make a
what is the
motion to suspend the rules and approve on first reading.
Okay, Selena second. So, motion by Pete to suspend the rules and pass on first reading, second by Selena. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, have first reading.
So, first reading and then pull item
Bring
10?
item
is that-
10, yeah, if you
Okay.
bring item, we'll bring it
Okay.
back to the next council meeting.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 11. So 10's been pulled off the agenda. Move on to item 11. R041822, I'm sorry.
I am so sorry to
absolutely.
interrupt.
Did
I just want to be I just want to make sure I understand the procedure here.
Yes.
So we're pulling
So,
10 from the agenda. No, yes, 10 from the agenda. That's the resolution to adopt the plan.
yeah, since we just did first reading, we shouldn't try to vote on
Right,
item
you can't
10.
vote on something you didn't opt into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have one more question, Mayor. By us saying waiting another 30 days, since Indy's gonna be looking at this in 2 months, that really, just giving us a little bit more time is no big deal. Okay.
If it was not an issue for any of you, for expediency's sake, we would be done, we could help coordinate everyone else, but if we wait 30 days and answer any additional questions, that's not an issue either.
Okay.
And my follow-up question again about item 10 then, I understand that we're not taking action on item 10, but can we have first reading of
It's a
item
resolution.
10 to, what?
It's a resolution, so it was ready for approval tonight. So if somebody wants to make a motion to table it for next meeting, we can just have a simple motion for it.
Well, and frankly, my question is, can we discuss it?
Sure. Absolutely.
I mean, so this is the first time we're receiving this. And so, I mean, part of the reason, at least for me, why I voted not to suspend the rules is this is the first time we're hearing about it, and I'm gonna need to sleep on it and have some questions and probably talk to the public about it. Are we able to learn a little bit more about item 10, which is the resolution for the plan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You want me to talk a little bit about it?
Share a little about that.
The plan, the document itself is pretty straightforward. So under the statute for the Central Indiana Regional Development Authority, every community that opts in has to adopt a preliminary strategic plan. And that preliminary strategic plan has several statutory obligations to it. Number one, it has to discuss the participating members of the Development Authority, which obviously is a little bit perspective, but we know that all of the participating members or eligible members are those in the Indianapolis Anderson MSA. The second requirement is the membership of the strategy committee has to be discussed. And as Mayor Fadness alluded to, the strategy committee, which is going to be the board to oversee the implementation of the development authority, is going to be the executive officer of every member that decides to participate. The only exception to that is Marion County, who was given 2 votes due to their size. So Marion County itself is recognized as a body, as well as the mayor of Indianapolis, who's appointed as a de facto chair to the board. And that was discussed with all the participating members who have been talking about this to date. There's a timeline for submitting a comprehensive development plan, as well as a strategy for attracting investments and grants and matching funds or local tax revenue. So what you see in the resolution and the preliminary development plan is really a broad outline of both the bylaws that'll probably be adopted by the Development Authority when it first convenes, as well as an overview of the strategic comprehensive plan that the Development Authority will develop when it convenes as well. And those kind of highlight several key factors, as you probably saw in the plan. Those are healthcare and medical technology, software development, logistics and manufacturing, green jobs, and finance and insurance. And those are going to be combined with a regional focus on talent, quality of place, societal risk factors, entrepreneurship, and infrastructure. So again, the two-part process is adopting the ordinance to apply for the membership, and then the second part is to adopt the preliminary development plan that starts to lay the groundwork for what the overview strategy is going to be for this committee. The code section, and I'll be happy to send this to you after the meeting, but is Indiana Code 36-7.7, and the entirety of the act is not very large, and most of the act is resuscitated in both the resolution and the ordinance from the perspective of the powers that the development authority and the board has and their overall purpose moving forward.
Thank you. And I just have one question. Like, this is not the plan per se.
No.
This resolution, but it has like the parameters of the plan or the priorities of the plan,
Correct.
right? And so part of approving the resolution is also approving those priorities, would you say?
That's correct.
Okay.
And it was, I would also tell you, the regional partners who have been working on this all agreed on the draft plan to present to all their fiscal bodies. So this isn't something that was drafted in isolation by Fishers. This was something that was worked on by several months with our regional partners so that every fiscal body that was being presented with this resolution had the same preliminary plan to review.
Everyone's looking at the same thing
Yeah.
because
You
it
are
was
looking-
collaborative
Exactly.
in its construction.
Requirement of the state that every entity pass identical
Mhm.
resolutions. So what you're discussing tonight and looking at is the same thing Noblesville and others will go through the same process.
Lastly, you mentioned sharing with us the actual Indiana code. Is there any other resources that you can provide each of us to help, I don't know, provide additional context or any additional resources? Could you pass that along?
Well, it's really just the act itself because this is a new
Okay.
creation. And David had mentioned another redevelopment authority. And what you'll see if you compare and contrast our development authority with that is how significantly reduced the powers are. The Northwest Indiana Development Authority that David mentioned, I think, has a whole section on capturing local income tax and sales tax revenue, creating kind of a TIF district for its regional transportation, which this act contains nothing of. It is simply the creation of it, the powers and the duties of both the board and the development authority itself, and how it's going to go on in perpetuity with its purpose and district. But I'll be happy to share that with you after this meeting.
Yeah, I think Fort Wayne has an authority up there too, and they have a pretty extensive plan. Actually, have you guys read their plan and looked at that? And is that pretty much what our plan's going to be?
I've certainly been through Fort Wayne's, and Evansville has another pretty strong one. And Megan and I both experienced this when we were applying for the READY grant. One of the reasons that we need to start getting more organized is, frankly, we're behind the curve when it comes to pitching on these regional proposals, because a lot of these other entities have been working on it for a couple years, getting ready for these grant applications. Our region, because we don't have an entity, when it does come time to apply for a regional grant, we're calling each other saying, well, you want to work on this? Should we work on this? Versus having something that's actually focused on we as a region collectively. So I really think that there's an opportunity here to position Central Indiana to do better. If you remember the first Regional Cities Initiative, Central Indiana lost. The second one, we applied for 50 million and got 20 million. And a lot of that has to do with, frankly, our lack of sophistication as a region about pursuing these things. So by establishing an entity, by getting more organized, I think we have a better opportunity long-term to have access to those funds so that we can continue to invest here in Central Indiana.
Mayor, so who are the municipalities that are considered part of the region? I guess that's where the confusion is, because in the resolution it just states political subdivisions located in Indianapolis, Carmel, Anderson. It doesn't say Fishers. It doesn't say Noblesville. So that's why I was trying to understand what are the municipalities that are.
It's long-term, it would be any municipality in the metropolitan statistical area. So any of the 9 counties, the donut counties, any
Okay.
municipality or county government could be a part of it. And keep in mind, this is gonna evolve over time. You know, communities are gonna opt in when the timing is correct for those folks. Some of us have a more immediate need because we were fortunate enough to receive federal or state grants, so we're moving quickly, but there are others who may come in at a later date as they see fit. So this is gonna evolve over time, but ideally, long-term, all 9 counties and the communities that make up those 9 counties would be working together to go pursue these opportunities.
Gotcha, thanks.
Yep.
Anything else? Good? Okay.
Todd, could you just have a motion to table item 10?
I'll make a motion to table item 10.
Second by Selena. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's take it. Thank
You know,
you.
I'd like to make a quick motion. Items 11 and 12 are voluntary annexations. As much as I like listening to Megan, I'm going to ask that we forego her presentation and take a vote on voluntary annexation items 11 and 12.
Is that okay? Motion?
Anybody have an issue with that? I'll make a motion to approve item 11.
I'll set, Selena's, motion by Pete, second by Selena. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
And now I'll make,
I'm sorry, that happened really fast. I'm gonna vote no.
okay.
Okay.
And I will say, I was planning on presenting items 11, 12, and 13 together, and then they'll just require separate motions at the end, if that would make it easier.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay,
Yep.
great. For the record, Megan Vukasich, the Director of Planning and Zoning. The item before you, again, items 11, 12, and 13 are going to be all dealing with the same development. The first 2 deal with annexations, and then that item 13 on the agenda is for the rezone for the PUD ordinance. So the area that we're looking at is here on the northeast side of Prairie Baptist in 136th Street, so up here in the northeast portion of our city. The petitioner today is Fager Drinker on behalf of Lennar. The current zoning of the property is R2 residential with an existing land use of agriculture. And the comprehensive plan does designate this area as suburban residential, which is 2 to 4 dwelling units per acre. So the proposed development is 3.5 dwelling units per acre, so that does align with the Fisher's 2040 future land use map. So here's the concept plan that's included within the PUD ordinance. So I will say this is a pretty challenging site. There's a few site constraints, and the developer's done a great job of really making it work for their project. So there's a diagonal easement that runs through the site that cuts the property in half, and then it also abuts I-69 interstate. And so what the developer has proposed is this internal pedestrian connectivity network. So that uses these features as really an amenity for the development. So within the development, there are 3 distinct areas that'll have different products. So up towards 136th Street, these are all gonna be rear-loaded garages, so they'll be front-facing homes. And then back towards the interstate, we are gonna have the traditional front-loaded garages. And then over here to the west side of the development are proposed townhomes. These will be for sale, so there will be owner-occupied townhomes. I do want to highlight again that Area A, which is the front-facing portion of this development, is going to have those rear-loaded garages, which is a unique feature of a subdivision. So here's just some example elevations that are included in that PUD ordinance. These were approved by PUD committee at last week's meeting. So there's several home elevations that are going to be incorporated into this development, but I think that this will add a lot of character to the 136th Street area. Again, just want to highlight that internal pedestrian network. So all the lines identified in green are trails that are going to be in common area, and then the red are the traditional sidewalks. So there's a lot of active trails for this subdivision. And then with any PUD development, there's a little bit of give and take. So this chart just represents kind of the deviations from our Unified Development Ordinance, and those really relate to density, so lot size, frontage, and setbacks. And then where we're getting above and beyond, where it's exceeding the UDO, is these other areas, which are open space, walking trails. They're proposing all native species for their landscaping. This will have a mix of for-sale housing types, and then again, that elevated architecture. And I do just want to highlight that the open space that's provided for this development is over 18 acres than what the UDO would require. So it is a significant amount of open space for this development. So we do recommend that council approve as presented. Plan Commission did send a unanimous favorable recommendation to City Council, and it does align with the Fishers 2040 vision. And then again, here I just have those items 11 through 13, so they will require individual votes. But before we get to that, I am going to turn it over to the petitioner if they have anything else.
Thank you, Megan. For the record, Corby Thompson, 11911 Lakeside Drive, Fishers, Boomerang Development. Megan summed it up really well. There was one comment last time, a question from Brad relative to our providing an access for the church off Prairie Rapids Road. We are going to do that. We have agreed to do that. Okay, you're welcome. And other than that, it was a 7-0 at Plan Commission. So if you have any questions, let our representatives, and I'm here to answer them.
Okay, so we'll start with R041822C.
That's the voluntary annexation.
That's voluntary.
I'm going to make a motion to approve that.
Okay, motion by Pete to approve.
The C is the fiscal plan.
Yeah, that's the fiscal plan for
Okay.
the Abbott Commons.
It's just because it's first, so it's a fiscal plan, right?
Yeah, okay. So it's a fiscal plan that we're voting on. Is that motion by Pete?
Yes.
Second by Selena, is that correct? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to 032122A.
Again, that's the voluntary annexation now. I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Motion by Pete to approve. Second by Selena. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then on to 032122B.
I'll make a motion to approve and wait for comments from council.
Okay.
I might comment about two things very quickly. One is every time we talk about new development in this area of Fishers, I'm sure most of you receive comments from neighbors in the area concerned about just roads and traffic and capacity, and the list is endless. And I frequently feel a little flat-footed responding to those comments. So I don't know if there's any new news we can share, but that is a continual, we hear that every time we have a new development in this area. Secondly, so that's one request, if there's any new information or communication we could do to address those concerns of neighbors. And secondly, my second request is, Megan, you and your team did this amazing map. If we could continue to keep that updated as we move forward. I found this map, which is demonstrates the development that is in progress and the number of units. That really helps me, at least, get that eagle-eye view of this area of Fishers, which is undergoing a big transformation quickly. So if you don't mind, if you would, keeping that up to date, that would be helpful.
Yes.
So those are my two questions.
Part of the Planning Commission presentation that went on is Director of Engineering Jason Taylor gave a full presentation on the road work which is going to be established up along 136th Street over the next, help me out here guys, 3 years I think is what it is. I mean, obviously they're waiting on some fundings, et cetera. There is a plan in place to go ahead and take that all the way up and mitigate all those traffic problems which are going to be potential problems, because there's no question about it. But I don't think, Corby and his group at Lennar are going to be able to put these houses in. It's going to almost coincide with exactly what's going on at the same time. So as you're bringing in the new housing, you're going to also have a lot of road work going on out in front. You're going to have his, ingress and egress happening simultaneously with this road work. So again, it's a very well thought out type of transportation plan as it relates to this particular area. And again, I know you guys aren't at Planning Commission, but we have that fully at Planning Commission, and I'm happy to share that I think Jason did a terrific job along with Megan and her team and talking with all the folks who did have questions as it related to specifically traffic. And for those that travel that corridor, and I know Brad does every day, and I know the mayor does every day, there is issues up there as it relates to traffic. That will be mitigated in a major way with the thoroughfare plan that's going to continue on up through 136th Street.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, so this exhibit that's shown here is it's from the Fishers 2040 plan. So just like the future land use map, we have a future thoroughfare map. that based on our projected population growth, really what our road improvements are that are needed through the year 2040. And so 136th Street is currently in the design phase, will likely be constructed in 2024. And this just shows what is proposed. So that would be 2 15-foot lanes with a median in the middle, and then dedicated turn lanes as well.
Thank you. Megan, is there like a web page or something, a roundup that we can direct neighbors to share this information? Something concise to help address these questions would be helpful.
Yeah, so along with Drive Fishers, the engineering department recently introduced a project dashboard that's available to the public. So on the engineering's webpage, you can go and you can look at all of the current road projects that are under construction, but then also in the design phase. And that's exactly what the planning and zoning department is working on as well for the new development, which ties into your second comment.
That's great. Okay, thank you. And if we can help spread the word to neighbors, as development continues, more and more neighbors are keyed into and have questions. So I just want to be able to be responsive to that.
Certainly.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
So we have a motion by Pete. Is there,
Yeah,
David?
I have a comment,
Okay.
a question. You know, the planning commission held their meeting last Thursday?
Wednesday.
And it wasn't posted online, so I didn't have a chance to really watch the planning meeting. Is there any chance we can?
Yeah, we'll have to look into that. Yeah, it should have been
Because I
posted.
would, you know, and Pete, he was out of town. I did try to give him a call. He was enjoying the warm weather. He was. And this question's for Brad. I mean, you know, I've sat in a few meetings now, and you keep talking about PUDs.
I'm waiting for my turn.
Okay. Well, so I'm going to wait for your comments there.
Go ahead, Brian.
The same thing I've been saying for a long time in my belief for 20 years as an engineer that designed probably half of Fisher's back in the 70s and 80s. We have a zoning ordinance. And the zoning ordinance is our ER and R1 through R5. In the 6.5 years that I've sat in this city council, we've never, and please correct me if I'm wrong, used an R through 1. And Chris wanted next month to introduce an ordinance to get rid of our zoning ordinance. Everything has come through PUD, and we let the developer do what they want. We don't need a planning department. Just file the PUD and go pull the building permits. That's what has happened for the last 6 years. Britton Falls is very upset because the developers are running the city of Fishers. And now it's becoming more evident because I'm speaking out, everybody in Fishers is coming to Brad. You're the only one representing us. Here's my problem here, here's my problem here, here's my problem here, here's my problem here. And the mayor's opened his door and has met with a couple of them already this week. It's popping up all over. I'm getting tired of it. We don't need any PUDs. Pick zoning. The thing that I do like about this project, that I've always advocated, is 3 different types of zoning in one project. I love that personally, as a designer and as an ex-mayor, love it. That part of the project I've told Corby I love. But pick 3 Rs, get it rezoned to the 3 Rs, and go with that. The other problem that Corby and I have discussed, side setbacks. Everybody in here knows the problems we have in Britton Falls with side setbacks. Our ordinance says 10 feet, R1, R2, 3, 4, 5. And we let them go 5, 7, we let them do whatever they want. And it causes all kinds of problems. Just the other day, Hill started mowing, unfortunately, 2 weeks too early. The ruts that I'm getting the pictures, again, that I don't send on into the city anymore, because okay. So when are we going to run Fishers and the developers not run Fishers? Chris, I'm serious. Let's introduce an ordinance. We don't need, get rid of it. We don't need a zoning ordinance. We've never used it the 6 years that I've sat on the planning commission. Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear, Brad. No, you know, there's one of the, you know, I didn't get a chance to go to the see the planning meeting, but there was the rear garages. Somebody did contact me and said that big trucks that park in front of the garage poke out into the alleyway. So is that enough space? Is the design enough space to handle that, Courtney?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, David, for getting me up here. Yes, we understand that issue, and we addressed it in this project, so we know that. We invited the neighbors out. We sent out 70 packets to the area neighbors and invited them to a meeting a couple weeks ago. We had 3 show up. As far as a plan and a project that conforms to the 2040 and the comprehensive plan and the future land use, and then with the future thoroughfare improvements and the infrastructure that's there in place and the way we've addressed this and the absolute lack of remonstrance and our accommodation to the existing procedures that are available to developers, this has been quite a dream project. Now again, I've been working on it for 14 months with staff. It wasn't, we have spent a lot of time with this. This is our 10th iteration on our layout, and a lot of our architectural got thrown out, and we tweaked a lot of it. So it's been a lot of work, but I think we've done a really good job given the current set of rules, the current set of standards that exist. And Brad, I love straight zoning. I love it, can't get it.
All right, any other questions or comments?
At the last council meeting, I had made suggestions about the rear elevations of the garages for the alley project, the homes that were going to be built by the alley. I didn't see in the packet here any photos.
So PUD committee did review those elevations last week, and all of the rear-loaded garages will also be decorative. And so it's included in the PUD. There's an exhibit within the PUD ordinance itself.
Any other questions or comments? So we had a motion by Pete. I can't remember, did you second this? Selena seconded it. Jennifer, will you do me a favor and do a roll call vote on this?
Todd Zimmerman,
Aye.
Pete Peterson,
Yes.
Cecilia Coble,
Aye.
Brad DeRamer.
No.
Selena Stoller. Jocelyn Vare.
Aye.
Crystal Newman.
Aye.
David Giffel.
I wasn't prepared enough to know. I'm going to have to vote no.
Okay. 6 ayes and 2 nays.
All right, so
Motion passes.
thank you very much. Move on to item 14, R041822D, a consideration of change of tenant for large-scale tenant space to allow for private school use at Publishers Drive.
Yes, and this is the first item of this type that this council has seen. So if you all remember, last July, we approved a text amendment to the UDO that required any change of use for a large-scale tenant, which we defined as any tenant space that was 25,000 square feet or greater, to receive approval from you all for that change of use. And so tonight we do have our first change of tenant proposed. So this is at the just south of 131st Street, east of State Road 37. It is an old publishing company, and the use that's being proposed is a private school, which is Mission Christian Academy, and they're here tonight, so I'm going to briefly go over this and then turn it over to them. So the number of students that are proposed is 225. They're not planning any structural changes to the building itself or any site improvements. There is a potential for a playground to be proposed in the future. That's identified in blue here on the map. But otherwise, no changes are happening to the site, and any changes in the future would have to meet the requirements of our Unified Development Ordinance. With this, when this was approved back in July, I just want to highlight that there was specific criteria as a part of that ordinance that needed to be met for you all to approve it. And that is the same criteria that our special exception through our BZA is required to meet as well. And this property actually had to seek a special exception. And so we do have included as an exhibit for you all on the agenda the findings of fact from that BZA meeting showing how all of that criteria was met. That's also been included in the staff report as well as the resolution itself.
I also want to say that Mission Christian has been a really great partner to work with on this project, and so I am happy to turn it over to them to give their presentation to you all.
Well, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Sean Moore. I'm the principal and founder of Mission Christian. This is Jerry Ackerman, my director of operations and co-founder. We'll keep it short and sweet. I wish we had the high school group. They did a great job. So we'll work through this, but we just briefly want to let you know who we are. Our projected enrollment, again, is 225 students for next year. We started last year, pre-pandemic, with 38 students, not knowing that was coming. About 170 students this year. We think around 225 next year. We're a K through 12 academy. Our school day's up there 8:15 to 3 o'clock. A little different that we have, we're a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday program, Monday, Friday at home, so kind of a hybrid option to kind of take over that area. So we're a little bit excited about the possibility of that, partnering with Grader's Ice Cream and Arby's and City Barbecue and everything there for teenagers to take advantage of. So I'll let Jerry show you the property here.
Thanks for having us, Council. We appreciate it. Here's just a short, small video, just shows you what the building is in case you want to. The old Gannett building, I guess we would say, so right across from Fisher's Barbecue. So here's just an overview of the facility. Half the facility is furnished or finished, I would say, and then the other half is warehouse. We currently have no plans to change, add, or eliminate exterior or interior elements. If we would certainly go through the permitting process in order to obtain anything that we would like to change. We did want to focus on traffic considerations. Hope you appreciate this. Took a long time to develop these cars here on the map. Little blue cars I tried to put to scale. They actually are to scale, just to show you where we would have any traffic that's coming for pickup and drop off. We currently have about 30 cars that come at any one time. That's as long as the snake might be. This shows you a single strand of cars. The yellow line shows you emergency access that still could access from Parkside over to Publishers without cutting around. So if that would be needed, that's where it would be. We see parking in the white strip there. That's where we'd have the staff parking. This map shows 47 blue cars being able to fit in the parking lot. Most of the traffic we would think is going to come off north, off of 131st, making a right into the parking lot and then exiting on Publishers Drive. We did think that we could potentially have more cars. So this picture just shows you there's two, what are they called? Bumps. What are the bumps?
Speed bumps.
Yeah, speed bumps. Two speed bumps. Yeah, two speed bumps. Just to show you that we could have 2 lanes of traffic. So I created another graph here just to show you we could have 2 lanes in there. That would allow us to have 117 cars. That would not stretch out into the public roadways at all. Obviously, there's even more parking space. There's more parking area to where we could probably get creative and even do more. But that just helps you see that we've thought through traffic and want to make sure that we never ever have the tail of the snake come out into any of the public roadways. Business impact. We are going to probably hire maybe close to 20 new jobs next year for teaching. So we're going to add to the economy when it comes to job creation. Obviously, we think Graders is going to get a lot of business from students after school, we believe. And Walmart's going to see an increase. We've already started to talk about Arby's and relationships we can have for lunch in-house at the school. Obviously, shopping increases. And that building, for no fault of its own, COVID-related, has just kind of been a dead facility, right? Not a lot of life, so we believe energy and life is going to be able to come back to that area of town as well.
And then just quickly, we've got about 20 plus businesses currently represented with our clientele, with our base there. So we'd like to see those families stay within Fishers. Obviously, student tax dollars stay in the area. One thing, we're kind of nerds on statistics, but we've got about 85% of our student population is within like 2.5 miles of the I-69 corridor. So predominantly our group comes from Fishers anyway, so we'd like to keep them here, see the growth. I love Fishers. I've been here for 25 plus years and would like to see businesses stay here and grow. So we're excited about the possibility, realize this is a first, so we appreciate your time, and that's our presentation.
Just one quick comment that appreciate your sensitivity to traffic. They have been working with our planning and engineering team to make sure that they can accommodate the traffic flow. So if you have any concerns about that, the engineering department has looked through this.
Yeah, report from A&F Engineering, that was also part of the planning commission report as well, so.
And we're willing to be flexible too, so if we need to offset 15 minutes for ingress, egress, we can do all that.
I think if there were any major concerns, it would have been put forth in the council action form or shown up at the planning commission.
Make a motion to approve and wait on comments.
Motion by Pete to approve. Second by Selena. Do we have any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
sorry. First of all, glad to see the possibility of a use for this facility. I did have a concern about the traffic. That was the first thing I thought of. I just want to reference, there's another smaller academy across the street, and this is, of course, just around the corner is HSE's school bus place, right? Like, this is where all the school buses enter and exit every day. So I guess just in concern of that and for safety, is that being addressed to HSE buses? This is a thoroughfare for HSE buses.
I think I would reference again, A&F Engineering and our engineering team, when they evaluate this, they would evaluate all the traffic and the context for which it exists in. So I'm confident that they contemplated that. Megan, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
We currently reside, the school does, at Grace Church Oleo, right across from HSC. So we've had to deal with the departments over there to make sure that we were not, I mean, that was right in front of us. So we staggered our times as well as the school to make sure we would not interfere. And there's been no issues the whole year. We're very sensitive of that, so we would certainly continue to do that here as well.
Thank you for your thoughtfulness of that. Thanks.
Yeah, and I just want to add, so attached to the resolution was that traffic memo from A&F Engineering, and so they looked at the exhibits that were provided by Mission Christian, as well as did their own analysis with the surrounding uses, and they had no concerns with traffic based on the timing.
Quickly, is there a way that we can access those documents? Like the amount of days between the Plan Commission and City Council, like if those documents could be readily available to us before this meeting, that would be helpful.
We moved the planning commission due to spring breaks.
Oh, so it was
that
compressed.
normally doesn't coincide. We
Okay.
normally have it the first Wednesday of every month, I think, Megan, right? So normally we have 2 additional weeks in between planning commission and here, but it was the anomaly just due to spring
Okay.
breaks that it was 1 week after
Because I
another.
think a lot of us really try to pay attention to what happens in Plan Commission, even if we can't attend or watch it. Okay, thank you.
And I just want to highlight, it was included on the agenda as well, the council agenda for review.
Oh, attached to the agenda for the, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
All right, anything else? Okay, we have a motion by Pete, a second by Selena. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, moving on to, we have several voluntary annexations.
Yes.
With public hearings on each one, correct?
Correct, that's what I was going to
Okay,
mention.
so
Thank
we
you.
are on item 15-041822A.
Yes, so this is for the annexation of about 7 acres, and this is, they received a variance through the BZA, and as a condition of that approval, we required annexation.
Okay, so I'm going to open this up for public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, step forward, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have
Motion at first reading? Are we
First
approving this
reading?
now?
I'm sorry?
Are we approving this, Christopher?
This is just first reading.
It's
First
first
only?
reading.
First reading.
First reading.
Okay, item 16-041822B.
Yes, so this is for the voluntary annexation of about 5 acres, and they are subdividing their property into 2 estate lots, and so as a part of that process, we are requiring annexation.
All right, so open this up for public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, step forward, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing no one stepping forward, we'll close the public hearing.
Have first reading.
Moving on to item 17-041. We just did 16.
So, I'm sorry, you're right. You're right. Go ahead.
Item 17.
Yes.
041-822C.
So this is for another voluntary annexation of about 1.25 acres, and this is for a future sewer connection.
Okay, we'll open this up for public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, step forward, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing no one stepping forward, we'll close the public hearing.
Have first reading.
All right, on to item 18, 041822D.
Yes, last annexation on the agenda. This is for 4.15 acres. This is a residential property that also is looking to connect to sewer.
Okay, we'll open this up for public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, step forward, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing no one stepping forward, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Have first reading.
And we have a first reading. All right, on item 19, 041822E, consideration of a text amendment of various sections of the UDO.
Yes, so this is for just a UDO text amendment. The purpose is to refine certain language to further the overall purpose and intent of the Unified Development Ordinance.
And this is just a first reading, correct?
That is correct.
Have first reading.
Okay. All right, we're moving on. There's no unfinished or new business. Moving on to community comment. Anyone wishing to speak, step forward, state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Michael Colby, 7105 Cold Lake Drive. I'm going to address the civic education part of the student project. I want to remind people we're having early voting. It'll start Wednesday. It'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The Wednesday, Thursday time is 2 to 7. Following week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Same thing, 2 to 7. And then the Friday and Saturday is going to be 2 to 7 and 10 to 3. And I want to really thank the town, the council, the mayor, and the staff, because we take over the Holland Park building. It is shut down, and we got 10 voting machines in there, no waiting, 2 poll pads. We're ready to go, and that's civic education. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll miss you around here, Mike.
I'm going to be the inspector.
All right.
Anyone else wishing to speak, step forward, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing no one stepping forward, I'll go ahead and close the community comments. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second. We're adjourned. Have a good night.
Way to rally.